So I'm, CEO Wearable World. We're a year and a half old company. We do events. We also do media, and we have a lab. So we're the largest wearable news publication in the world now, according to like what my biggest competitor just wrote. We do events, 19 different cities around the world called Wearable Wednesdays, but also the Glaze Conference, which had 2,000 people. And then we have our labs program, and you'll know some of our companies. We've got about 30. Scully Helmets is one of them. Touch Pico is another. They were both trending on Indiegogo at the same time. We've done, this is our second class, but so far we've done, we're 100% on our crowdfunding campaigns, and we've raised about $6 million across all the different companies that have done there so far. And then we also have a 90% fund rate from our classes. We don't do a traditional funding model. We do, a lot of like business development and marketing support with the companies that come in, because we just felt like, that's what the ecosystem needed most at the time. But, funds coming soon, I hope. We'll see. Anyways, I'll let everybody kind of introduce themselves real quick, and then we'll kind of start cruising along. So everybody, just tell everybody who you are. And also, I dressed for a barbecue. None of you guys did. I want to drop that out there. So you guys also mention your favorite type of barbecue, and if it's not Oklahoman, I'm upset with you.
When Reg walked in, and he was like, "Hey, what time are the speakers going?" Oh, no, I'm a speaker. He was like, had to convince them that he was a speaker. So, yeah. I like it, though. I like your style. I like it. It's good. So hi, I'm Kate Drain. I head up hardware design technology at Indiegogo. So Indiegogo is the largest crowdfunding platform. And we are here we're in San Francisco. It's like I'm in Sunnyvale. Where am I right now? Yes. So we're in San Francisco, headquartered, and with offices in New York and San Francisco, and in New York and LA and across the world. So I've been with Indiegogo a little over 2 years and have worked with some of our largest campaigners. My role is to educate and empower so people are best set up for success. So I'm here to share some tips and tricks, and so excited to see some of our alumni here, and yeah, excited for today.
Hi, I'm Salil Pradhan. I'm sorry I haven't woken up yet. It's a bit early in the morning for me. I'm a venture partner with Draper-Nexus. We're an early stage venture capital fund, primarily investing in the US and in Japan. We invest across a wide segment of companies. We've done in consumer, enterprise, a few in hardware, quite a few in clean tech. We tend to come in and look at companies that are capital efficient. We're a small fund. Current fund is about 50 million. Next fund probably in the 100 million range. We like things that have some level of consumer or enterprise traction. I'm sure we'll get into it. And so we love things that Katie and her company does, because that gives us the data we need.
I'm John McGuire. I'm the CEO and founder of Active Mind Technology. We're developing the game platform, and our first sport is game golf. Game golf is it's a merge of both of my passions, which is technology and behavioral psychology. And we are something like about 200 days in market. And the kind of high level on the company is we've about, in golf, we've over 6 million golf shots stored to date. We've over 100,000 rounds of golf uploaded to the platform. The system has been used in over 79 countries worldwide. And so far, so good.
I'm Wayne Miller, and I lead operations for Active Mind Technology. And I've been doing startup things since about 2006. A variety of things, including clean tech and wearables and other things. And before that, I was at Apple, and I led product design for all the desktop and iMac products.
Also, you guys were on Indiegogo.
Yes, we were.
Didn't Obama use your product recently?
He did, yeah. We were on our way back from a planning session with Apple, and we got a Google alert in saying that President Obama wears game golf. So I think Wayne was driving, I was in the back seat, and I was looking through my phone, and I zoomed in, and there were our tags on the top of the clubs. There was a speed wobble. We got back to the office, and yeah, he was wearing it on his 2-week break.
There you go. My favorite barbecue is Trail Dust in Morgan Hill. Yeah. All right, and I've already introduced myself, so I'll let Reg go.
I won't get too offended. So real quick, like this is all about like, how do you go from like that initial seed of an idea all the way to a behemoth like a Scully helmet, or a Pebble, or the coolest cooler. In the early days, 3 years ago, of this crowdfunding revolution, what is it that kind of tipped your guys' head? I know you guys were probably working on schematics and trying to come up with that idea, but what is the thing that really made you say, I want to actually be insane and build hardware because I know no one funds it and startups are already hard already. So I just want to be really, I want to take the hardest route. I want to understand, particularly from you guys, what's the thing that made you guys do that? What was the trend that you noticed that you thought, yeah, maybe we'd actually be successful? And then why did you go the crowdfunding route?
Well, the first part of that question is the answer is just complete and utter naivety, to be quite honest, and blind optimism. In Ireland 6 years ago, I had walls covered with what today is concepts around what today actually is become Nike Plus, Nike Fuel, Nintendo Wii, so kind of sensors that would collect real-world data and then immerse users in kind of fun, engaging environments, because that's the type of background I have. I have a tech background with a behavioral psychology background as it applies to sport. So I was always trying to figure out how would you collect data, and then how do you serve up that data in a way that is visual and fun. And so around 2006, 2007 in Ireland, when next thing when Nike launched their Nike Plus, really which started to create the category in terms of wearables and sport, at least, or in health and fitness, I realized, okay, I'm onto something here. And then I started, probably did about a year of market research and validation, where I went out and I asked 5 questions to anybody that would allow me to ask the questions to them, which was, 1, what do you do today to help people improve? And this really was to sports, to athletes, to coaches, and in different countries. I did it in Australia, I did it in the UK, did it in the US. What do you do today to help people improve? What technology do you guys use? What's good about that technology? What don't you like about that technology? And then the most important question that I asked was, if you had a magic wand, what would you really, really like to see? And that allowed me to sit with, Clive Woodward. He was with the English rugby team when they won the World Cup, and those type of people. And I got their 20 or 30 years of experience in one sentence. And really it all boiled down to, at the end of all of that, really was, John, if you can create something that is easy to use, and if you can then serve up the data from that, because data on its own is dry, but if you can create that data, if you can visualize it, and if you can picturize it in a way that is engaging and has a social component, you'd be onto something. And then it funneled into a conversation with the director of the Ryder Cup, because I didn't play golf at the very start of this. I knew nothing about golf, which you talk about hardware, try raising money for a golf company. That's also just as hard. That's harder, actually. And the director of the Ryder Cup in 2006, in 2006, he was director of the Ryder Cup in Ireland. He said to me, John, in golf, in particular, because it's a very stat-orientated endeavor, if you could figure some way to collect the golfers around the golf easily, you'd be onto something. So then I started going about how you would do that. So I didn't know hardware was hard to do. I didn't know it would be hard to raise golf or money for finance for golf. I didn't know Silicon Valley existed. So I tried to do this in Ireland. I quickly realized that people did not know what I was talking about when I was talking about wearable technology and things like that, because it really, really wasn't happening. So in 2010, 2011, I started to come here. I spent a year trying to raise the finance. I eventually got my break. I started raising the finance with some, some finance veterans or veterans of finance out here, the likes of Facebook guys and Jerry Yang and all these guys started investing in the company because they all bought into the vision. And then fast forward to what I just said at the start there, where now the device has been used in over 79 countries worldwide. And also last year we did a market test. So imagine spending 6 years of your life dedicated completely, joining your wife on the second week of your honeymoon and things like that. They're the type of, I did that sort of stuff. And I continue to do that type of stuff, which is, most people think is completely crazy. And as I look back on it, I have no idea how I did that, but I did. We did a market test with Indiegogo. So, after 5 years, we said, okay, let's put the baby out there and let's see what happens. And at this stage, we'd partner with Fuse Project. Yves Berhard, the designer, he's behind the design of what we're doing. And we, within a day or so, we raised like 300,000. And for us, that was the market validation that we needed to really go after the opportunity. That was kind of the.
Oh, no, I think that's perfect, because I think that's kind of really, I want the crowd to learn. And you know, when I look at the anatomy of a panel, like we've got a VC, we have a crowdfunding platform, we have a successful crowdfunding startup, we've got 2 jokers on the bookends. And really like where I want to go at and what I want to understand then is okay, so you had the idea, like you ran through it, but at the time, right, there was no resources. Like where did you figure out, like, yeah, I need a sensor that does this? Like where did you go to actually find that stuff, and what do you see today that is actually that, because the ecosystem changed, like everybody's like throwing schematics out. Like Texas Instruments told me the other day, it's like, we just throw schematics every day out, and just so everybody sees it. So like now everybody gets it. Where did you find that today, and like what are you seeing that makes it easier for guys out here to build these products?
I mean, it's completely different today. So, you know, go back to Ireland in an office with 1 or 2 other guys, because we got some government funding to start it off, or at least to prove the concept, or at least to do something with a concept. One of my strengths is I would have a good network of friends. I used to work in Nortel Networks. So when John McHenry, the director of the Ryder Cup, said that to me, I had no idea of hardware. I had no idea schematics even existed, to be honest with you. So I called my buddy who worked in Nortel Networks, Porrick, and he was an electronic engineer. And I called another guy that was working in analog devices that was a buddy of mine. And between the 2 of them, they put me in contact with a guy called Bill Hunt, who was, sat on various panels in Ireland on innovation, on junior programs, etc., in terms of hardware, software, etc. So I started kind of working with him. Then Porrick started creating this early prototype, creating the schematics, buying boards, merging boards together, buying off-the-shelf casing that we chiseled a hole in so that we could go in and we could flick the switch so that the thing would start picking up GPS and things like that. So that's how it started. In Ireland in terms of a physical product, which I came here with thinking I was hot stuff with this box that had a hole chiseled out of it, with no like industrial design whatsoever. And I would go on golf courses not able to golf with a black box that was held together with elastic bands, trying to raise finance for this. But I didn't realize that was virtually an impossible thing, and because I didn't realize that, I eventually succeeded in raising the finance for it. Whereas now you've got, we have incredible partners now. It started with Indiegogo, and Indiegogo were fantastic. The support they gave us while we ran that campaign, and then I was lucky enough to start, attracting the likes of Wayne to the company, who was phenomenal experience, Apple, etc. And then we found actually a guy called Nathan Kelly, who's the CEO of Sonos right now, who became a friend while I was out here. He introduced us to our manufacturer, which is E-Systems, which are based down here. And we all along we've been lucky in terms of the partnerships we've been able to create, and having a manufacturer that are willing to really go on the journey with you in all types of ways, including working capital, funding, things like that. That makes it a lot easier. And there's now the ecosystem is there. That slide that was there that showed all the different pieces of the ecosystem. I mean, I had jet black hair when I started this. Yeah. Maybe if I was starting now, I could have kept the hair color. Because there is an ecosystem here now. There is the Apple Watch coming out, and the last speaker. I talked to one of the wearables on the wrist at the weekend, and one of the things they said to me, one of the founders said, when Nike came out with the Nike Fuel Band, their entire budget for that day was the same as their budget for the entire year, but it lifted all boats. Their sales increased. So with what's happening now, and with the awareness that is getting into the general mindset that is out there, it's just far easier to do something now, because you've the likes of E-Systems and others that are willing to take a chance, that are willing to work with you, that are willing to, and the crowdfunding is that, there's one thing looking at a PowerPoint presentation, there's another thing looking at a market traction and acceptance, albeit from early adopters.
So that's great, and I think that moves us kind of down the chain, right? So to Kate, so we've got this whole picture, and I think kind of to sum it up, ignorance is bliss. Determined ignorance is like kind of the pathway to success. So many of my friends like that have started, like even me, like this whole white patch is like this last startup wearable world. So you go to like to the crowdfunding side, right? And you guys get prepared. Okay, like is that like a unique story to some of the early like hardware guys? Like, what do you see when they come to you in regards to product today?
Yeah, for us, so we really saw an uptick in the last probably 18 months, maybe 20 months, of people who were making products, making hardware. One of our first hardware campaigns was the Muse headband. It was a brain sensing headband out of Toronto. And just this fearlessness of people putting their story out there, trying to make something that had never been made before, and the story keeps coming up. The story, and that's, I feel like this is the cacophony that's been growing and building. So and that's demanding an ecosystem to also raise up as well. So there's entrepreneurs who are like, we're going out there, we're going to make something amazing happen, and again, being fearless and just going for it, and then using a platform like Indiegogo. So again, using the power of a global exposure, so that attracts not only people like you and I, but also, and we all have our own experience in this room. So there's press, there's VCs, there are retail, all these people looking at people who are like being able to demonstrate market traction in this very visible, real way, that they're telling their story, they're doing it in a way that's understandable. It's like the real time, I'm speaking for you, but it would be like the real time or the modern day pitch, where it's you telling your story and then you're breaking it down. Here's our team, here's what we're setting out to accomplish, here's our vision, here's how you can get involved. And it's not just happening behind closed doors anymore. You don't have to. So I own a small business, and for us, a few years ago, before the Jobs Act, even Title II, that you couldn't solicit for funding. And so that for small entrepreneurs like us, so I own a mobile beer canning service. It's called the Can Van. Very small, but very awesome. But so we needed $200,000, and we're like, how are we going to raise $200,000? We don't have rich friends. So we went to Indiegogo. We raised $4,000 out of $10,000. Learned not to have a $150 t-shirt perk. No one wants to buy that, just pro tip. But we did, our largest investor found us because of the platform. She only invests in boozy enterprises owned by women. We fit that unique niche, and then we were able to get started. And I feel like, again, this is the story for a lot of entrepreneurs. When you put your story out there, you tell it in a way that's compelling, you connect with the right audience that cares, amazing things happen. And so I encourage you, anybody who's thinking about this, anybody who has a vision and something that they want to create it. So for us, you can get started at any point. We've had people who are in like pre-prototype stage, in the idea stage, or fully formed products. Just be really transparent about where you are, so then because people contribute to people, so be honest, be authentic, and that'll help you be successful.
Yeah, I think I want to drill down to like the whole help you be successful, because there are a significant amount of crowdfunding campaigns. Like, this isn't a lock. Like, I can't, potato salad, right? I mean, that was kind of a joke, right? We all know that that actually happened. I wish that I would have thought of it. Actually, I'd have bought everybody drinks today. So what I really want to kind of understand is that, like, what are the things that go into the preparation? You do some prototyping, you get it out there, you look at the stage and you're like, oh man, I got a box with rubber bands around it, I'm walking around crazy, or, and is that enough? Or is it, I had an entrepreneur who has this beautiful design, they're amazing, they're amazing, they're directors of movies, right? And they've got this product that's really cool, and they're like, no, like, we've got to get the prototype because I want to give it out to the press, like, when we're ready to push it. So what is like the best stage from your mindset? And also, like, you know, I'd like to throw a little bit of color into it, John, like the ups and downs and ins and outs of like the actual campaign moving forward, because it's like you launch an app, you know, on the iPhone store. Back in the day, you see like 1,200 organic users like every day with anything, and now it's like you get 60 and you're cheering. At a large corporation, get 60 organic users a day and brag about it. So, like, yeah, I mean, what's the hack?
So I heard two questions. So the first one of what does it take to be successful? So every crowdfunding campaign, any platform, is boiled down to the same three components. First, building engaging pitch. 2, connect with an audience that cares. And 3, proactive communication. So basically anything that you do, it will all ladder up to one of those three things. So that, I mean, there's a lot of things that are entailed in there. Having a video, you raise on average 115% more money. Being sure that, and then if you update 3 to 5 times throughout the life of your campaign, you'll raise over 218% more money. So all those things, again, they ladder up to those three things. But in terms of what stage is the best stage in order to be successful, I believe, like, this is my opinion, I believe that it's best when you have a working prototype, because at that stage, like, so for me, I am here, like, I see my privilege and responsibility to protect the industry and to make sure that this lives for as long as it can live. And so we all share that responsibility, everybody in this room, where you want to make sure that you build trust in what you're building. So if you say you're going to do something, that you are able to do it. So for me, why I like working prototypes is that means that what you're making can be made. And we've had campaigns at different stages, all be successful, but at the end of the day, you are responsible for what you say you're going to create. So I'll just use a personal example. So for me, the Canvan, again, $4,000 campaign, but any perk that you put up, you had to fulfill. So because typically the first person who contributes is your mom, and because it's the person who is the most vested in your success. And so for us, you know, same story. Probably did either of your moms contribute, or John, did your mom contribute to your campaign?
My entire family contributed.
Yeah.
And they were the worst.
Yeah, no, exactly. So like, yeah, the first 30% typically come from the people who are the most passionate about what you're creating coming to life. So again, for the Canvan, the first, my mom contributed, so she wanted to get her name on the back of the trailer. And so she contributed $600 to get her name on the back of the trailer. And 8 months later, she wrote me an email. She's like, "Hey, Katie Poo, just wondering, where's my name on the back of the trailer?" And I was like, crap. Hey, co-founders, can you please, you know, put my mom's name on the back of the trailer? Thank you. And so then a month later, you know, your mom, she's relentless, and she she writes back a month later. She's like, "Hey, Katie Poo, still wondering where's that picture on the back of the trailer?" And so I forwarded it to my co-founders. I was like, if you don't put my mom's name on the back, I'm going to forward this to your guys' moms. Yeah. So it's a funny story, but at the end of the day, it's really important that anything that you say that you can do, that you're able to do it.
So that's interesting, and you know, and this kind of pulls you into the conversation a little bit. You know, prototype or not, like you get suggestions, product feedback. How much did you guys use to iterate the product as you're going to build stage? Was it valuable, or was it all bad stuff, right? No, but seriously, like, what were the things that you guys were able to feed in the product? Did you leverage it, like, into that early vision? Like, what did you guys get out of that from a product side?
Yeah, you know, the process of, you know, building a hardware product, you learn a lot when you get it out there, right? So once we did the alpha kind of stage, we had it in a bunch of customers' hands, and, you know, there were a lot of problems with it, you know. And, you know, you just have to grind through it, honestly. It's really all about, you know, kind of listening to people, whether they're your customers, whether they're your partners, whether they're other individuals who, you know, are advisors, and it's just grinding away at it. And, you know, we've had lots of issues, stupid ones, you know, but painful ones, you know, like belt clips. You know, our product kind of goes on a belt, and, you know, they were breaking. And, you know, you ship a bunch of stuff, and, you know, some people are like, "Oh, you guys are really great, I love this," you know, it's a little problem, and the other people are like, "You guys suck," you know, because, you know, this thing is a piece of shit. et cetera, et cetera. So, it's really all about, kind of just grinding away at it. And again, it's having good partners. We had people who were helping us with the molding of the plastic parts, and they're giving us a lot of advice. And it's listening and reacting and responding. From my perspective.
Yeah, I think a little bit of a pro tip: whenever you're trying to build like a brand and you show pictures of like product and everything else like that, get people smiling in the pictures. Like it goes so far into people actually like liking your product. Don't get like me with like the growl. If you guys see the picture, you'll laugh more. Yeah, all right. So we got like the product feedback loop, which is really compelling there. Like, what do you like? Were you guys actually able to kind of attract investors? And so we're going to pull you in a little bit. What was the response you guys achieving your goal from the investor side? How instrumental was it in getting like additional funding to kind of, did you get additional funding, follow-on funding? Like what was kind of the anatomy of the funding money after post-campaign? And Kay, I'd want you to also talk a little bit about that too. With most
Yeah. We see up to Indiegogo, I think we'd initial seed funding. We see. Yeah, we had raised, coming from Ireland, I had two things. I basically after that 12 months of the market research and validation, the Enterprise Ireland, who are a government body tasked with developing high potential startups, they said, okay, John, if you back, we'll back. So I put a mortgage on my house, not realizing that most people actually don't do that. And then they matched, and that allowed us for a period of time then to come here to raise the initial seed finance. Then we did the Indiegogo. That gave us the market proof, or the accept from early adopters. It gave us market proof, and then that allowed for the more traditional venture finance to start happening for the company. And it allowed us to raise our Series A, and in fact we're about to close on our next round right now, or in the next, I would say, probably two weeks, something like that. We're that kind of close in our next round.
So any investors step up with checks right now.
Yeah.
And so in preparations, Salil, like what do you as a VC need to see from the hardware companies as a proof point validator? Like what are the things that make you say, oh yeah, I'll take this back to the investment committee?
Great question, right? So let me start 2 steps earlier, right? We tend to see companies that are best described at concept stage, and like last week I saw an entrepreneur who is a founder of a reasonably successful company, but as 5 years he's been doing it, he's bored. Now he wants to go to start another company. And so he has this concept his wife and he had been working on for a while. And so somebody referred him to me and said, run his idea by you. So I said, sounds interesting, show me. And so he took out all these slides and showed me a very elaborate analysis, which basically pointed and said, there's a great market demand for his product. Sounded fine, except the analysis made no sense. I mean, there are these many things and therefore these many people want to buy. If you look at the details, there were lots of holes. So coming back to things like Indiegogo, right? One of the things I see people now doing, that this is the exception, is they start thinking not in terms of technology. And this was pretty much a hammer looking for a nail. I'm going to build this, and I'm going to try this in this vertical, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to pick a completely different idea, but I'm going to use exactly the same technology. And the beauty of the technology is, well, it's got 1 million uses. All I need to do is figure out one, and right now I have 0 figured out, right? What I see people now doing is there's a little change. I used to see a lot of this. Now I see people saying, we're preparing for a campaign, right? We haven't done one yet. We're preparing for one. And that process gets them to start thinking about who their users are. Surprise, surprise, you need users. A lot of the companies I see up front are like, I've got this geeky thing going. It works great. I haven't figured out who's going to use it yet. Sites like Indiegogo help us because we don't have to sit and coach people. That you do need users, you need to find a way to get them. If you can't get them, doesn't matter if you found a way to slice bread in 3 different ways, nobody's going to buy it, right? So now we start seeing people who are showing us early campaigns. Here's the campaign I'm planning to do. So we get to judge people even before they've done the campaign in terms of, are these people likely to have a successful campaign? As in, Are they thinking about the right ideas? Are they thinking about the right customers? Are they thinking about the right go-to-market strategy, right or wrong? Is their thinking valid enough? The challenge it poses for entrepreneurs is, in the past, we've done deals, and I'm thinking more consumer than enterprise here, where we would say, you know, you're going to need some money in order to go do that, right? You had to raise some money. Now the barrier has gone up, right? Because now you're going to see so many companies that are in the middle of their campaigns, and the campaigns are doing really well. The natural tendency of an investor is to find something that's the risk is slightly lowered, right, because of the campaign. And so if you are someone who requires money in order to do the campaign, life got a little bit harder, at least from a VC's perspective. Because my angle is going to be, if you're so close to doing a campaign, just go right ahead. Do one, right? And I'm happy to help you along the campaign. Maybe we can throw in some money. But wait for your raise until you can prove to me that there's extraordinary demand for your campaign. So you're raising 100K and you say, made 104. That's interesting, but not so much for me. You're raising 100K, and day 10, you're at 300K. And you've got a freaking problem on your hand. I have no idea how to handle this. I don't know where to get the demand from. I don't know where to get the money to build this. I'm in deep shit, right? We love people like that. It's like, if things can be solved with money, right? Great. But if you need, you know, all I need is money, and then I'll find someone who gets me a customer, and eventually they'll buy it, we have a problem. So we now start seeing companies which are two spectrums. One is very successful Indiegogo campaigns, and you know, sometimes they have a challenge there because the valuation gets out of control, which is great for the company. Sometimes as a small fund, we would sit those out. Other times, we're able to see people or what people are going to do for the campaign and get an overall perspective as opposed to simply saying, you know, here's a prototype. Is it going to work? We don't know if they can sell it. So this helps us a lot.
Can I ask you a question? Is it okay? Okay. So a lot of times people come to us and they're like, oh, what should I set my goal at? And so then we ask, so our advice, standard advice is set your goal at what you need in order to move forward, and then and be realistic about it, but you want to be able to like, and so they're like, oh, I don't need this for money. And so the next answer is like, well, set your goal at what you think that you're going to essentially blow out of the water. Campaigns that hit 50% of their goal within the first 48 hours raise on average 47% more money. So that's my lead up. So what would you recommend? So you're like, we only want to talk to people who have a grand success. So if someone says they're going to reach 100,000, they only reach 102, then that's not. But if they reach 300, awesome. So what if they set their goal at 38,000 and then they raise 102? Is that a grand success? What is that? Can you qualify that for us?
That's a great, so that's more like a how to hack the VC kind of question, right? So I don't want to answer that from how to hack the VC. What we'd like you to do, honestly speaking, I'll give you the honest answer and then I'll suggest a little hack. The honest answer, we would like you to set realistic goals, that the money you need, and then be surprised by the fact that demand was higher than you predicted. That's what we're really trying to understand, right? Is if you set your goals at $1 million and you made 900K, that's good, but sometimes it's going to be disappointing, right? Question was, did you really need the $1 million? Maybe you didn't. So that makes sense. What I'm these days more interested by is how quickly the campaign happened rather than the money raised. Because that tells me what kind of focus effort you can put behind marketing, how you're preparing before you even start the campaign. I mean, the right guys, as you know, you're expert at this, will start the campaign with enough PR, enough things done, enough buzz. The wrong guys, the guys who are doing it for the first time will launch something and say, we've got this running for 10 days, nothing's happening, now we got to do something. So I'm looking for people who are more prepared to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. It's not so much the amount, but how quickly that amount gets taken. That's more interesting for me.
Okay. Thank you.
That was literally my next question, so I'll just kind of pull that back. No, it's so good, right? So,
Wait, Reg has his questions written on his hand,
I
just
do,
FYI.
it's always my cheat. You guys think it's so organic and natural. No, everything's prepared.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling me out, Kate.
Anytime. You're welcome.
I look so calm. You're like, wow, how does he think of it?
I know.
So this brings me to an interesting point, right? The relationship with the press and media and with the PR folks, and you know, we're seeing in like interesting crowdfunding campaigns that can cost anywhere from $150,000 to $300,000, right? In order to go out and actually hit these campaigns, meaning you get an amazing digital agency, you get a great video, you get all those different things. John, I'd love you to tell us how much you spent, but but it's an interesting thing. This relationship where you kind of need the press and media because people aren't just going to troll Indiegogo and Kickstarter and all these other crowdfunding platforms just to say, oh man, I really want to find out what to put money in. What's the relationship there? How much of a factor is it, and how do you get it? We can start with you, Kate, if you want to pipe in.
My one piece of advice is that there's a misconception that press drive contributions. So when you launch on the day of, and I get this a lot, so feel really secure that you know where those first contributions are coming from, because people don't want to, again, that stranger like 30% rule, that's typically the tipping point for people who don't directly know you, like your mom or your family, to contribute. So be sure that you have that fast momentum. And that's our rule of thumb. And so I'll preface with that, and then saying that press don't drive contributions, contributions drive press. And so again, do as much as you can, like when you're preparing and you're getting ready, put that effort into knowing where those first contributions are coming from, like locking down to be like, hey, Joe, I know that you're super stoked about this. I made a distribution pack just for you, $10,000. You should grab it first day, because I know that fast momentum, 50% in the first 48 hours, 47% more money. So that would be what I would recommend. But I would actually push this question back to you, since you work with all these companies also from an execution standpoint. Like what do you see, and as a person who has pressness?
We're really lucky to get great companies. That's the thing. I mean, we spend a lot of time driving community development with our startups. Scully hit their campaign in 6 minutes. They had it was $250,000, which was no joke. 6 minutes.
We're all like watching it. We're like, refresh,
yeah.
refresh.
So it's still like there's still a little bit of time left. I think they're going to be the #1 technology thing. She's happy it drives paychecks. I'm happy it gets evaluations. Anyway, so but they had 100,000 people that were signed into a beta program before they even got started. I mean, they did all the follow up, all the lead up to the press. Avigant Glyph was one that didn't have that much lead up, but they were another one of our partner companies. They did 1 million in 72 hours. That was more press driven than it was the other way around. So if the product is sexy and it resonates and you set your contribution levels at the appropriate level, I mean, Scully was a little bit different. Like they could have went and had like lower levels, but they went at $1,800 per contribution person, right? So if you look at that, it's not easy to like pull that money out. I think the crowdfunding platforms are interesting because the other day I said there's an element of like VeriSign, like when you look at it, because you're like, okay, you know what? They actually had some degree of vetting to actually get onto this platform, so I can pull out my credit card and trust that this is going to happen. And if they can't deliver, like, the gods of Indiegogo are going to smite them and take that money back and give it to me. I think that's what consumers think, but in reality, like driving your audience, your product resonating with people, and people really joining in with you. The guys around Scully are like, you know what? Like we are part of the Scully team. These guys really care. The founders are authentic, so it resonates with that community. It's really this interesting thing where MVP meets community community development and social community development, and bring all those things together, and then making sure you get the validation by the press people. So I don't know if you can get some press folks drunk, take some crazy pictures, threaten them so they write about you on the day of the launch. I mean, you have to have that, or you don't. I mean, you don't have to have that, but you have to have the press people that will, believe in you and believe in your story. And so I'll say this about like John, like you're a very empathetic guy, right? None of these guys would have helped you if you were crazy or an asshole, right? So wearable technology and crowdfunding is not a game for assholes at all. Like it doesn't work. To build a product, you have to be extremely empathetic, because this is something that touches human skin. And if it touches human skin and you don't, I'm like turning my back to half the audience. I'm empathetic, right? So like if you can't actually do those things and understand like humanity to a deep degree, like your products inevitably will always fail. Like just build the infrastructure. Like you can still be an asshole there, right? But if you're actually building the stuff that touches people, I think that that's very important. And so John, like you can call me out if I miss something or I'm wrong. I'm wrong all the time. But like, are you with me on this or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a mix of what both of you guys said there. For us, it was, we had done our homework. We had talked to Ouya. We talked to a number of different groups. We talked to the Indiegogo guys. We had found out what the kind of the map was to have a success on Indiegogo. A friend of mine, we're organized and we're scrappy. A friend of mine is a PR guy in the city, so I got him. He's an Irish guy. The Irish network is strong. I got him to, start reaching out to press before we launched. I made sure that we had a certain amount. When the press came, there was already a party going on there. So we made sure they were there first. We made sure through our family, through our networks, that we had started the process. Then the press came, but the other thing, the core thing here is actually, we had a product that came from market research and validation. We had a product that we knew the industry needed, and even more so right now with golf as an industry, what we have sits in the middle of so many different opportunities for the industry that we're working in. And then we spent money on a video to make sure that it was attractive, to make sure that it gave credibility. You had Yves Berhar in it. We had, at that stage, we had, we have Graham McDowell, we have Lee Westwood, and we have Jim Furyk using our technology, and they're actually investors in the company. We didn't pay them to be involved. They invested to be involved. And in the video, we had Graham and Lee. So we I think maybe 40 or 50K to produce the video. That was the cost of our campaign. But when we pressed go, we knew there was activity there, and we knew 24 hours later the press was coming there. And we had a mix of both tech and we had a mix of sport and golf coming to see what was going on. And, I knew I'm long enough, 4 or 5 years, really knowing that the industry wanted and needed this product. So I was confident that we were going to get what I wanted, which was the market proof. That's what I wanted from the Indiegogo campaign, which we got in like 24 hours. And then, as I said, now there's a very successful story there.
So this goes. So I've got this firm belief that no one's going to deliver like the overarching platform that delivers IoT. Like there's not going to be a Nest that rules the home. There's not going to be this like. It's these, the things that are going to be successful early on that actually build into like larger corporations or people that do things like what you built, which is a very specific niche use case around a rapidly active community that makes their lives better. Like if you hit all those things, I think that that's kind of the pathway to success in this. And that's, I saw these guys they're a Speedo, a wearable Speedo company. And I'm like, I love it. Like I got my motorcycle helmets, I got my Speedo. Man, I go to town wearing that stuff. So Lil, like that's not the traditional VC model. It's in my mind, right? It's like, where's the big, $1 trillion market? How are we going to, where's my $1 billion exit? You look at Game Golf and it's like, yeah, it's not a $1 billion exit, but if you look at their underlying technology, I mean, they're hitting their first use case, and I've seen how hard the rugby guys hit. Like, that'd be great to see a scale that like hit meter, right? So is that impacting like how you guys look at deals around the niche, or is this just you've always looked around niches? Because I'm seeing niche use cases actually win on the wearable and Internet of Things front.
So a couple of things, right? So Internet of Things is such a broad space, right? I was at a incubator that was picking Internet of Things startups, and we probably saw 30 startups. And the founder of the incubator said, "What do you think?" And I said, "That's interesting. There was probably one company in here that I would have thought as Internet of Things. The rest of the 29 are latching onto the theme, right? Because, you could have called them app companies, you could have called them whatever you like, right? So it's just a moniker. We tend to ignore monikers. As much as monikers are interesting, when something gets categorized and organized and Gartner writes a report on it, it's too late to be investing in that space. That's when you sort of reap your rewards of any investments you've made, right? So I don't think we are there with IoT, so we tend to look at it as what's the vertical, what's the application, what are you doing in golf, as opposed to if we were investors in your company, we wouldn't say we are, investors in an IoT company. We would say we're investors in this company, and it's revolutionizing golf, right? And the way we would look at this is to say, look, I don't know a whole lot about your product, right? But here's the way I would look at it, is to say, if this does for golf what you're hoping to do, maybe it broadens the game of golf, right? Maybe there are kids who never play golf that want to start playing golf. Maybe you make a bigger golfer. Who knows what the market size of that looks like, right? If the market expands 3x, what portion do you occupy in that? So helmets are the same thing, right? How important is safety, right? Safety is very, very important. How much of that from a healthcare perspective? Well, there's multiple revenue streams than just saying, there's something that sits on your head. If I look at the existing market for helmets, there's probably something. But this is in the boundary of healthcare, if you look at it. It's a safety issue. Maybe there's a bigger market than that. So I think there are some bets like that investors make. Sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong, right? But the hope is that a niche turns into something much, much bigger than anticipated. That's one. Second thing is, we do see these kind of companies becoming winner-take-alls, right? Where you may not see a company like in the past where Nike comes along and creates 4 different products in 5 different categories and wins, because Nike makes great products, but none of them are standout products by themselves. It's the brand that ties things together. And now with crowdsourcing, and not just of investment, but of technology, entrepreneurs are creating things that they like and they have a passion for, and they'll make a better helmet than anyone else could do before, a better swimwear before, but the same guy couldn't do both, right? But you can have something where, over time, there's a helmet company that dominates, right? 80% of the market is taken up by, you have the Google of the helmet space. That is possible. And that's the hope that we're investing with, is that this company, the niche, essentially becomes a winner-take-all, or as close to winner-take-all as possible, and then potentially it spills over to other spots. I personally do not like the word platform, right? And the reason is platform was great when people build companies that turn into platforms. Now people come up and say, we're building a platform company. And the platform's going to do this, that. It's like, okay, show me one application everybody loves. Why one? I'll show you 1,000. Okay, great. Show me one that people love. Well, no, I'll show you 1,000. We don't have an application. So we are happy with companies that are building one great application, going to take over the world. Who knows how big that market is? Platforms emerge, platforms don't emerge. I don't care.
All right. How much more time do we have, Mike? Yeah. We just kind of kept rolling on.
We should give some audience questions.
Yeah.
Why don't we take
Yeah.
2 minutes for audience questions?
Okay. This guy put his hand up first, and this guy second. Go ahead and holler at us. And then
I'll make it easier. So you guys are mostly talking about consumer products. If you go is mostly consumer. I wanted to turn to something else and say, turn it around. Say you've got an Internet of Things product for business customers, enterprise. How does the future change?
So that's a great question. I was actually going to ask Katie if they deal with enterprise applications. The life becomes a little bit easier for us to judge when you're dealing with an enterprise product, right? Because you actually have, hopefully, a real customer that you can validate. The problem on the consumer side is you can't just build something and says, my mom loves it, and therefore you should invest in it. I don't, you can pick anyone off the street and convince them that they should love the product, and you can coach them, and I'm left to believe them. If you've got a large company as a customer, and I can actually validate the use case, then I think we're all set. We tend to love, by the way, as a fund, we tend to love what people are now calling the industrial internet, right? These are gunky, deep problems. The other day I talked to an entrepreneur who wants to solve the problem of heat furnaces. Very unsexy problem. I can't see anyone running a campaign on Indiegogo saying, got a heat furnace at home, run this campaign, give us money. But you know what? If he can detect a problem, okay, once a year, he'll save $1 million per incidence. All we had to do was invalidate the problem. That's all it takes.
So a lot of what we do, because our space in San Francisco is a partnership with Technicolor. We've got several other really large enterprise companies coming up. what we do is we sit down with the C-level executives and we say this one thing gets them every time. Well, so you miss mobile, don't miss wearables. And they're like, oh my God, yeah, you're right. So then it's the C-level doors swing open, and what we do is we start asking about pain points. Like, what are the big pain points? And then we've got this huge database of people applying to our labs, and we look at what technologies would actually fit to solve those pain points, and then we work really hard to connect those two groups together and build the product to actually solve for those points. I don't know if you guys saw, we were on the front page of the Wall Street Journal for the American Airlines in-air hackathon, and a lot of what that was is we just sat down with all the American Airlines execs and said, what are the big pain points and the big pain problems, and then we went and found all the guys who would actually solve those pain problems. So we kind of, Wearable World is just one big cheat of the ecosystem, so we can like make our, push our companies to be successful. But it would be really great if Indiegogo could do an enterprise version of this, to where it's like, what are the big pain points? Cisco like lines them out, and then other larger corporations can see like some of the technologies coming up and can actually validate and throw some crowdfunding in there, because crowdfunding is really, in my mind, right, is really a consumer-based play, because you go out, it's the consumers that are the ones that kind of give you the money. Nobody like uses their corporate card to pay for, or maybe they do.
They do.
They do? Oh, wow. All right, tell us a little bit about it. Like, I would love to know.
Well, for us, with Indiegogo, so anybody can sell. Like with us, you can have any denomination of contributions. I think that someone actually, they put up one of their perks was $50 million to buy their company. They didn't get acquired through Indiegogo, but they're just putting it out there if anybody wanted to buy them. But we've seen people creating, again, distributor packs. So for a lot of our large a lot of our largest raises come also from distributor packs. So because people get these questions of, hey, I really want this for, actually, I think one of the first was about a year ago. It was with Canonical, ran the Ubuntu Edge campaign, and Bloomberg Beta contributed $80,000 towards it. And it was like this very public contribution, and people were like, whoa, that's amazing. And so what I would just recommend is, from an enterprise peer, like anybody can raise money for anything on Indiegogo. We have a lot of large companies that are looking into using the platform, but it is directly connecting with the audience that cares, and so it's how do you create that use case that it's compelling for other people to contribute to.
So if you have a very large email database of executives and you know exactly what they need, I mean, that could be a pathway for you, right?
So you can very publicly validate it.
Yeah, that's great.
Two more, and then we'll
So as a medical device entrepreneur, I was curious about opportunities through crowdfunding. I feel in the medical device community is much more traditional, and we have challenges like the FDA coming away. Sometimes our first product is being sold in Europe. So how do you advise this community to go through crowdfunding?
So we've had several medical devices. One was Scanadu Scout. It was a medical tricorder. Yeah. Being an entrepreneur, you had to balance your risks. And so I wouldn't be the person to be able to advise you specifically, but talking to other people who have done it, like Kinza Health, that's another campaign. Yeah. So there are people who have done it. But it is you have to, what I'd recommend is my one piece of advice is to be very clear about where you are in the FDA process, because the more transparent you are with your contributors, the more trust that you build. And so you don't want to say that you are, or even intimate that you are something that you're not. And so for both of those campaigns, they were very transparent about where they were in the FDA approval process. So I would just encourage you to do the same.
All right, last question.
Thank you. I don't know very much about crowdfunding, so I've got a question for you and then one for you. Crowdfunding, I really like what you said about try to stack the deck. If you're going out for crowdfunding, get people that you really, really care about what you're doing and are interested, and that's getting that momentum. Let's say I need $5 million. I get $1 million from crowdfunding. My question in the venture capital community is, how does that impact if I come to a VC we're talking about pre-money valuation, we're talking about, we've got $1 million in crowdfunding. How do you respond to that? The cap table now has crowdfunding. So how do you respond to
Two
that?
different ways. Most of the time, and then the job that kicks some of that, but most of the time, the money's coming from the cap table. I'm sorry. Most of the time, the money is not coming on the cap table. It's coming as customer dollars, right? So this is, I would see this more as, customers have bought or are committed to buying products for certain amounts. It has not affected the cap table. Correct me if I'm wrong?
So it's not equity.
It's not equity.
No.
It's not equity. There are models where there is equity involved. I haven't seen too many of them personally yet. We're in the very early stages of that. But most of the time you see is essentially just orders.
So yeah, so you get to maintain control and ownership of your company while determining, being able to put your story out there, your product out there, and to determine market fit and market validation, get exposure.
It's pretty cheap money until your customers expect your product. Then it gets very expensive, very fast, and painful. Almost as painful as dealing with VCs, but
Says it with love.
yeah. So all right, I think that's all that we have today.
Very good. I want to just thank the panel and everybody for taking time out of their busy schedule to be part of the panel. We're gonna move on to the next phase, which is the exhibitors. I do want to thank the sponsors here. They're all here, but better than to thank them here, they're all outside exhibiting. So go out and take a look at them. The path is starting with funding and going all the way through manufacturing, and then we got great demos in the gazebo. So thank you very much. And